Okay, the student wants to emphasize the decline in unique apple varieties in the U.S. and specify why it occurred. So we want to emphasize the decline and specify why it occurred. So in the 1890s, over 14,000 unique apple varieties were grown in the U.S. The rise of industrial agriculture in the mid-1900s narrowed the range of commercially grown crops. Thousands of apple varieties considered less suitable for commercial growth were lost, so due to the rise of industrial agriculture. Today, only 15 apple varieties dominate the market, making up 90% of apples. The Lost Apple Project attempts to find and grow at least. So the decline is significant, 14,000 to 15, and it occurred because of industrial agriculture, basically focused on a few apple varieties. So the Lost Apple Project is dedicated. No, that is not answering the question. It's just extra information in that passage. While over 14,000 apple varieties were grown in the U.S. in the 1890s only, so we've got a contrasting. This is going to show a difference or a decline. Only 15 varieties make up most of the apples sold today. This is good, except it says nothing about the why. There's no why here. So that's bad. That's not the right answer. C, since the rise of industrial agriculture, okay, this might be an explanation of why, U.S. farmers have mainly grown the same few unique apple varieties, resulting in the loss of thousands of varieties less suitable for commercial growth. This is pretty good, actually. Do we need to note the time frame? We don't have a time frame here. It doesn't really ask for a time frame. This looks pretty good. I'm going to check it. Let's just see D and come back. As industrial agriculture rose to promise in the mid-1900s, the number of crops selected for cultivation, this says nothing about apples. There's no apples here. We can't just talk about industrial crops. That's not right. C is the right answer. It includes what we need to include. The decline, thousands of varieties lost, and the why, it was due to industrial agriculture. The student wants to emphasize a difference in the origins of the two words. So we're looking for a difference, okay? So also probably means we're looking for contrasting transitions in the answers. Starting in 1929, Scripps National Spelling Bee is a U.S. spelling competition. The words used in the competition have diverse linguistic origins. In 2008, Mishra won by correctly spelling the word guerdon. Guerdon derives from the Anglo-French word guerdon. In 2009, such and such won by correctly spelling the word laudation. Laudation derives from the ancient Greek word laudaika. So one has Anglo-French origin, one has a Greek origin, and these are the words that won the competition. We're emphasizing a difference in the origin of the two words. One's French, one's Greek. So the final word of 08 is of Anglo-French origin, while the following year's final word derives from Greek. We have a contrasting transition. One's Anglo-French, one is Greek. This looks really good. We're probably going to circle this, but check B, C, and D. 2008, Scripps by spelling the word Gordon. However, the following year, that says nothing about origin. There's no origin there. Okay, and that's what we need to emphasize. C, won the Scripps spelling bee by correct spelling laudation, which derives from the Greek. Okay, that's just one. We can't have a difference if we don't have both. We need to have both. This is just one. So that's wrong. The Scripps National Bee uses words from diverse linguists. Nope. Just because they're diverse doesn't mean there's a particular difference emphasized between the two origins of the words. A is the correct answer. The student wants to emphasize the role a misconception played in the name of a place, the naming of a place. So there's a misconception that led to the naming. So let's emphasize that. So Las Sergas de Esplandian was a novel popular in 16th century Spain. The novel featured a fictional island inhabited by Black women known as California. That same century, Spanish explorers learned of an island off the west coast of Mexico. They called it California after the island in the novel. The island was actually the peninsula now known as Baja California, which lies to the south of the U.S. state. So what's the misconception? The misconception is that it was an island from the, just like in the novel, when it was actually a peninsula. So the novel featured a fictional island. No, that's not a misconception. To the south of the U.S. California, originally called California after a fictional place. Is that emphasizing the role a misconception played? No. In the 16th century, Spanish explorers learned of a peninsula off the west coast. No, they did not. Well, let's take that back. Hold on, back up there. It does say that same century, they learned of an island off the west coast. In the 16th century, which is when this novel was written, they learned of a peninsula off the west coast and called it California. Well, they literally did learn of a peninsula, but they thought it was an island. So that is the misconception, but is that emphasizing the role the misconception played? I don't know about that. I'm going to move on. Thinking it was an island, Spanish explorers called a peninsula California after an island. That's it. There we go. This one is emphasizing the misconception. They're thinking it was an island, but it was a peninsula. So they named it after the island in the book incorrectly. D. The student wants to explain an advantage of the infilling technique. Okay, so there's some benefits of an infilling technique, whatever that is. Some sandstone arches in Utah's Arches National Park have been defaced by tourists' carvings. That stinks. Park rangers can smooth away some carvings using power grinders. For deep carvings, power grinding's not always feasible because it can greatly alter or damage the rock. Park rangers can use an infilling technique. So if there's really deep carvings, they infill, which involves filling in carvings with ground sandstone and bonding agent. This technique is minimally invasive. So we want to know the advantage. The advantage is we can use it for deep carvings, right? So to remove carvings from sandstone arches, power grinding is not always feasible. That says nothing about the advantages. That's just a disadvantage of power grinding. Filling in carvings with ground sandstone, a bonding agent is less invasive. Nope, no comparison of the invasiveness of the two. That's not it. We just want to point out the advantage is infilling can help deep carvings. Park rangers can use a power grinding technique to smooth away carvings and fill them with ground sandstone. No, that's not really showing an advantage of this particular method. As methods for removing carvings from sandstone, power grinding and infilling differ in their level of invasiveness. Okay. Well, I guess it does say the power grinding can greatly alter or damage. So this is invasive. So maybe we should be looking for, because this is not right, which means they're all not right, which means we're back to the drawing board. And we are back to the drawing board. So maybe the idea here is that the deep carvings can be, the power grinding can be invasive. The deep carving or infilling technique is minimally invasive. Let's check for that. To remove carvings from sandstone, power grinding is not, no, again, that's still not right. Filling in carvings with sandstone and a bonding agent is less invasive than smoothing away with power grinding, which can greatly alter. That is true, right? Does that explain an advantage of the infilling technique? Yes, it does. That's correct. So I was looking for the application, deep carving versus shallow carving, but the real idea was one's invasive, one's not invasive. B brings out that idea. The student wants to make and support a generalization about the effect of redesigning a city flag. So we need to make a generalized statement about designing a city flag or redesigning it, right? Not the details, we just want a generalization. So just like states have state flags, some cities have city flags, okay? Over 100 US cities have redesigned their flags since 2015. The city of Pocatello, Idaho, redesigned its flag after it was named the most poorly designed flag in North America. Pocatello's new flag better represents the city's mountainous geography and civic priorities. Okay, So that is the change in the flag. It's not yet telling us the effect. So we want to generalize the effect of redesigning it. Residents considered the new flag to be a meaningful symbol of civic pride. That's the effect. So if we wanted to generalize, we could say changing a city flag could have the effect of improving civic pride, something to that effect. That would be a general statement. So let's check the answers. A, over 100 U.S. cities have redesigned their flags, whose flag has been, that just says some have redesigned. Nothing about an effect there. Pocatello is just one of over 100 U.S. cities that have redesigned. Again, nothing about the effect there. After it was named the most poorly designed flag, the flag of Pocatello was redesigned to better represent the city's geography. That just shows the change. That's not the effect. We need a generalization about the effect. Redesigning a poorly designed city flag can create a meaningful symbol of civic pride. Yes, that's the effect. And it's a general statement. It's not talking about Pocatello per se, but in general. And then it gives the example, as was the case in Pocatello. This is your answer. D is correct. The student wants to contrast, so contrast, show the differences between Minnesota's definition of a lake with Wisconsin's. So, okay, that's interesting. Minnesota and Wisconsin have different definitions of a lake. Okay, didn't know that. Minnesota defines a lake as an inland body of water of at least 10 acres. Okay. Wisconsin's definition of a lake doesn't take size into account at all. So cool. Does that mean like my bucket of water is a lake in Wisconsin? Interesting. Lake, well, whatever. By its own definition, Wisconsin has over 15,000 lakes, many smaller than 10 acres. By Minnesota's definition, Wisconsin has only about 6,000 lakes. Okay, so we're contrasting the definition. So one definition takes account of size, the other doesn't, and that results in more lakes for the one that doesn't account for size, less lakes under the definition that requires a certain size threshold. So let's see. Wisconsin, which doesn't take size into account, claims it has over 15,000 lakes. So there's only one side there. To make a contrast, we need to have two things to contrast. We only have one there. A is wrong. Because its definition of a lake is different from Minnesota's, it is unclear how many lakes. No, it's not about being unclear. Okay. We want to contrast the two definitions. According to Minnesota's definition of a lake, an inland body of at least 10 acres, Wisconsin has about 6,000. Okay, again, that's just one-sided, one definition. It's not contrasting. We don't have two things there. Minnesota's definition of a lake, an inland body of at least 10 acres, is more restrictive than Wisconsin's. We are now accounting for two definitions, two different things, which doesn't take size into account. That is a contrast between the two. That's the correct answer. The student wants to emphasize a difference between baking soda and baking powder. Okay. Chemical leavening agents cause carbon dioxide to be released within a liquid batter, making the batter rise as it bakes. Okay. Baking soda and baking powder they're both chemical leavening agents. So they both make a batter rise when they're released with liquid batter. Okay. Baking soda is pure sodium bicarbonate. To produce carbon dioxide, baking soda needs to be mixed with liquid and an acidic ingredient such as honey. Baking powder is a mixture, so it's not pure. It's a mixture of sodium bicarbonate and an acid. So probably it doesn't need to be mixed with another acid like over here. To produce carbon dioxide, baking powder needs to be mixed with liquid, but not an acidic ingredient. Yes, that's kind of logical there, given what they're saying. So we want to emphasize a difference, okay? Baking soda is pure bicarbonate. Baking powder has an acidic agent, so one requires an acidic agent to be added, the other doesn't. They both are leavening agents. That's a similarity. So to make batters rise, bakers use chemical leavening agents such as, that's just a similarity. Baking soda and baking powder are chemical leavening agents. That is what mixes with, okay, that's a similarity. Baking soda is pure and honey is a type, no, that's irrelevant. That's mixing up the wrong kind of things to talk about. D, to produce carbon dioxide with a liquid batter, baking soda needs to be mixed with an acidic ingredient, whereas contrasting transitions always appear for correct answers when we're looking at differences. Baking powder does not need the acid. It's already mixed with the acid. D is the correct answer. The student wants to emphasize a similarity between two works. Okay, how much are they alike? So Tubbs is a native Hawaiian sculptor and installation artist. His work has been shown in the US, Canada, Japan, and Germany, among other places. Many of his sculptures feature discarded objects. Okay. His work Erasure includes discarded audio cassette tapes and magnets. So that's one work right there. His work Homegrown includes discarded push pins, plastic plates, forks, and wood. That's another work right there. What's the similarity? Well, they both seem to be, basic things you might find in a home or use. Essentially, discarded objects that people would have around the house. So that's a similarity between these two works. So Erasure used discarded objects such as this. However, that's contrasting, so it's probably not going to be a similarity. This includes push pins. No, we're contrasting there. Tubbs' work, which often features discarded objects, has been, no, it doesn't matter where it was shown. We want a similarity between the two works. Like Tubbs' sculptures, both Erasure and Home, so both is probably setting up a similarity. Include discarded objects. Erasures use cassettes, others use plastic forks. This is it. This is the answer. It's got the right transition, the right similarity idea. Let's just check D. Tubbs completed Erasure. No, the fact that they're completed on different years is not a similarity. C is the answer. The student wants to introduce Paradise to an audience unfamiliar with the novel. So if they're unfamiliar with the novel and author, we need to use that first bullet point information about the author and the novel. So the author was awarded a Nobel Prize. He was born in Zanzibar, East Africa, and he lives in the UK. So we need some of this information in our answer because we want to make the audience familiar. And we've got to say something about what Paradise is. Many readers have singled out the new book Paradise for praise. It's a historical novel about events occurring in colonial East Africa. So that's what it is, a book about history and events in East Africa. So A, blank author who wrote Paradise and later was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature was born in Zanzibar, East Africa, and currently lives in the UK. So we want to introduce Paradise, who wrote Paradise. We're not really saying anything about Paradise, though. So is that really introducing? We kind of would want to say it's a book about East Africa, and that's just not there, okay? There's a lot of background and focus on who he is to help our unfamiliar audience, but this part's not right. Let's keep going. Many readers have singled out the book Paradise, an historical novel about colonial East Africa. So this is some background on the book. For praise. Wait, this says nothing about the author, though. That's not right. Okay. C, a much praised historical novel about colonial East Africa. So this is introducing Paradise. Good. Was written by such and such, winner of a 2021 Nobel Prize. This is something about the author for people who are not familiar with them. C is going to be the correct answer. We'll just quick check D. Paradise is an historical novel about events that occur in colonial East Africa, such and such as Homeland. That's not a lot of information about him. A little bit, definitely not as good an answer as C.